Hello my friends, welcome back. This is Alfredo, the Rebel Turner. Today, I'm just going to work on a little project. It's not going to be very time consuming. What should I say? The video is not going to be that long, but the process might be a little bit more time consuming than the video, for sure. I'm going to show you how to make a star. Very straightforward, and what to do with the star. And how to bring it up to this stage so you can use it up on the bottom of a bowl as a medallion or as the base by itself. So we're going to get started and show you the process. Also, I want to discuss very quickly on how to calculate your segment length for a segment ring. There's a sure formula that will get it right on the money. Stick around and let's get started. And I apologize for some background noises, but I have just installed an AC, a small window AC unit in my shop. See if I can withstand being out here for any period of time. I'm gonna rip this piece, take that tongue out of that piece so I can use this up both for the star and the segments. Safety. Bring your blade just above the material. Don't cut with your blade way up in the air. Don't need it, and it's just asking for trouble. So I got my stock cut up. And I think that this length will be long enough, which is about 30 inches. This will be more than enough for me to do like a 6-inch ring plus a star. To get started on the star, the first thing you need to do is cut them up in 45-degree angles, whether if you use your sled or whether if you use your miter saw, whatever you got, that will give you that. My sled, even though it's for a different purpose, but goes up to 45. So I'll put it at 45, and since I haven't used it much for this purpose, I'll verify and see if in fact I am at 45 degrees. Okay, I'm just going to do a quick verify and make sure that this is in fact at 45. I am judging right against the rip that's done by the saw, and it's really tight against the blade, so it's true to the blade. Set it up in that groove, lock it up nice and tight, and bring it up and see if it's making contact at any point before the other. Nope, that's good. So with that set up, you do your first sacrificial cut on your piece. Make sure I can pass there. I got a lot of tools in my shed, so things get in my way of cuts depending on how I have my saw. So let me cut that sacrificial piece. Now, the key, the very important thing for you to do is the width of your board that you're using, which determines how big your star is, number one. But that has to be exactly the same as your length of your cut. So do a reference. And I will verify that, but that should fit in here the same way as it fits this way. That is crucial so your star can be true. Bring it up to your blade, put your stop, whether if you're doing this on a sled or you're doing it in your chop saw, put a stop to it and be accurate and consistent with your cuts. Make sure you verify until you're positive that your measurements are good, one way or the other. So you got to make 8 of them because you're cutting at the 45. Well, that's the math. You have to come up with 8 pieces. 1, 2. So now that I have the 8 pieces made up, let me test fit them. Test fit them and see how they do. When you put them together, put end grain to end grain. And then, of course, you have to end up with long grain to long grain on the next one. But always just do that matchup. And this is half. Half of the star should be at 90 degrees if your angles are good. Should be nice and tight against the back of your fence when you do that. And there you go, a star. So seeing that they look good, I'm ready to glue these up together. That's it. Now, like I said early on, the width of your board determines how big the star is. And I'm not working on a formula telling you how big for you to make those. That's something that you'll have to play with, but generally if you end up with something like a 5-inch or a 4-inch circle, which this happens to be a 4.5 from point to point, that's generally a good size circle for just about bowl or piece that you want to make, and it will give you a nice highlight piece. But anyway, let me wipe this down. And you can see that the star in fact looks pretty good. All the seams nice and tight, and that is determined by your 45 angle that you set up. I advise that you do a test prior to cutting them all up and assembling. But I like that. Now, the next step to this, of course, would be to let it dry. And then you need to make up some pieces to go in here, as I did on this one. And what that is I got 4 pieces that are exactly the width of 2 of the pieces put together. So I would cut a strip to go in here, same width as these 2 of these puts together. So cut a strip, and inside the strip you got 45s on 2 angles, exactly half, and it will continue going out this way, and you leave it. Just make that 45. I'll show you how to do that, how to be efficient, and always making sure that you get the center so you are equal on both sides. So you would do 4 of them like that, and then the other 4 you would oversize them. And here's the example. So you can see that this piece carries out over the 2 that are cut exactly to the width. So you would make 4 pieces a little bit wider to whatever you wanted to extend out on this, and depending on how far you went with this one. I could go out to 6 inches, 7 inches. Then this board would have to be fairly wide to make up and meet up. Or else, because if you do it over here, you're going to be cutting into the points. If you were to make them exactly to this size, sort of point to point, well, you're going to end up being square here, and by the time you round this off, you're going to be cutting off the points on your star, which you don't want to do that. So you always got to make sure that you're far enough from the star to be able to set this in and end up with something that's going to reveal the whole star and not cover it up. As an example, so this is an example of a star set up inside of a bowl, but you can see that I'm covering up the points of it. And the reason why the points are being covered is because I didn't allow enough of the white wood to expand far enough where the bowl, this bottom ring, could have been a little bit wider, so I would expose the whole star and have a little circumference of solid white all the way around. So the way to avoid that is, like I said, is by making these a little bit longer than this. This one would still work because I still have about 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch in between here that I could do a recess and embed it and not take away from the strut. So I'll show you how to do that for this one. Calculate your ring size. So let's go right from the very basics, and let's say I want a ring that's 6 inches diameter. Now, let's assume that I want to make a ring out of the same stock over here, and I don't know if I got enough on this. And I'll tell you if I have enough on this. I got basically 16 1/4 inches. So for this particular case, well, I think I need a 6-inch ring, at least a 5.5. So let's assume I'm going to make a 5.5-inch ring for that 8 segments. So back to there. Okay, so 5.5 inch ring times 3.14 equals 1727. Divide that by 8 segments, and I need 2.15 inches each. And it looks like I'm going to need about 17 inches, 17.25 inches of board. So I think that that's correct, but it gives you a rough guide of how much wood you would need to do something like that. So I'm going to set up my fence for an 8 segment, which is 22.5 degrees, and my fence is color coded to make it easier for me when I'm doing these type of setups. I forgot the length that I need, but either way, the first cut is sacrificial. So back, I need to know what's the length of each one of these here. So I need 5.5 inch ring times 3.14 equals 17.27 divided, oops, I put multiply, divide by 8 equals 2.158. So almost 2.25 inches each. So take the longest point, mark it up, and that's right on 2.25, yes it is, and set up my stop. You can see that I used exactly the right amount of boards that I had left over, because they told me I was going to need 17, but because you're always cutting into an angle, you flip-flop and you gain a little bit each way. So this is what I got left over from a 17-inch piece of wood. So you got your 6 rings. Now there's a lot of things you can do to a ring to increase its capacity if you decide, oh, but I want to make a bigger ring and I already cut this up. You could very well add another piece of wood to it in between of a contrasting wood, and you enlarge it by whatever amount you want. So you could cut a whole bunch of these and come up with different steps, different lengths, just by adding a square stock to the end of this. If you started off, let's say, with a 1/4, then you end up with a 3/8, so a 1/2 inch, and then 3/4, you would end up with 3 different size rings. Not recommended that you would mix different width strips. Whatever you put laminate piece in between, it would be for decoration, not to increase size. So you would maintain the same thing all the way through. So we'll try, right? Straightforward, gluing them up, no sanding, no doing any prep to alter the piece in any way or to make it prettier. Rub, put it together. And generally, when I do rings, I look at both sides of the wood and I see that I'm color matching. This wood happens to have a semi-finish on one side. So the coloration is different from the back than it is from the front. For the star, I actually wanted the variation, but for the ring, not necessarily. So I'm putting the shiny part up on it, but it wouldn't make much of a difference. And if you have wood that's very high contrasting grain, well, then you can do other things that would identify each piece by putting reference marks on the on one face, so you could match it up in sequence, so the grain would match up for you. But I don't even bother with that. It's a segment ring. It will always look different no matter what you do. So, in my opinion, different is a good thing. So let's see how I did. And this also attests for a sled of this type. And if you haven't seen this sled and how I made it, I got a video on it that might be worthwhile taking a look at and see how I did. And you can see I am pretty much dead on for that ring. So let me put a clamp on it and measure it. I swear I gotta get a power driver to turn these things faster. Before tightening it up all the way, make sure that they're all nice and flat and they're sitting true, and then give it the last tightening. And get the glue to gush up to each one of these things. And here you are, a ring with nice tight seams all the way through. One cut, one time, and just put them up. Sometimes you might have to pull one of these out or whatever because your clamp can be pulling it in, but it's nothing to do with your angle one way or the other. The size of the ring, I want it 5 1/4. And I have 5 and just over 1/4 on the flat part. Now with that size and this star, I know I got enough to work outwards and to take away to make the star fit right in. So the next thing we need to concentrate on is what do we do about the star and those voids. Oh, good ring, good star, done very quickly. So let's make something up to go in between these points. See what I got for wood? Okay, I went out there and searched, and I have a piece of I'm pretty sure this is a piece of oak. It is. So the width of this piece happens to be 2 3/8 of an inch. Let me see how far this is going to expand. out. I'm going to keep it like that. I'm going to make the first 4 that will protrude further out from the piece. So this set back up at 45 degrees. And I'm going to show you how to get to the center of this every time. 2 3/8. So 1, and I believe 3/16 is the center. 1 3/16 will be my center point on this. So I'll put a reference line. This is only going to be used very short time. I will use that once. So I'll line this up, this line, with my curve cut of the saw and verify after the first cut. It's right on my line. But once you verify once, you don't have to be playing back and forth with that set point. Transfer your mark onto your table, onto your sled. And for the next one, you're just going to line it up to there every time. Even though you don't have the line anymore, that will be your reference point. Okay. Now that I have this triangle here, I need to cut it up. So you can bring it to a separate saw, you can cut it up on your bandsaw, you can do a lot of things, but I'm going to work right on the same setup that I'm using right here in front of me. And that is by placing it in the front of my sled and use my sled as a fence. But I don't need it to be too long. It's just a little over a 1/4 inch over the outside. So back to this mark again. Okay, so I've got these 4 triangles, and their lengths don't have to be exact, but the centers do. Okay, so here I am, they're all matching up, except this one is a little taller, but like I said, that doesn't matter. So, but before putting this in, since this is still drying up, I need a strip to be the width of 2 of these. And these are all identical, so just measure it once. So out of the same board, I'm going to have to rip it, but I need a strip of this. Alright, and I'll make sure that I keep the line. So this strip should be the exact measurement as the star. And it is. So we continue with the same setup we just had and cut 4 more to complete that one star. Alright, so I need the half point, again, one time. And this is 1 5/8 heavy. So that will be, let me see, 7/8. And put a reference line going straight down on that. Make the first cut, line up your line with the edge of your cut. Right there. Flip it over, line it up again with that, and you can come back and do a reference line again if you. That's how I like to do it. And cut off. These have to be a little bit longer because you're passing up. Now if you cut these too short, with the same way I did before, for these for instance, well, you need this to pass up the rest of this star. So they have to be longer. You have to come up at least to the length of these, and you will see that that line is further away than what I had before. I don't want to cut it right here on the edge the way I did before. So basically I need to cut it roughly, and this doesn't have to be scientific. It's not an exact science to this. It's just you got to come up to somewhere where the next one I will come up to there as well. Need 4 going. So now I got these 4 wider ones and 4 narrow. So it's time to go in there. And again, you know, the height is not crucial that you're dead on. They can be a little bit, one a little taller than the other. The only thing that it sets you back on is actually on the, when you start clamping it, it will set you back a little bit. So take my star, which is what I'm working on. And even though this is not completely dry, it's only been here for about 20 minutes. But they will be gripped enough as long as I don't do anything strenuous to the piece. And this is going to go pretty much like this. And you can see why you needed those to be longer, so they can pass up each one of these. And here we are, with a complete circle with enough area for me to make any cut on this particular star, if I so desire. So it's time to go in there and start applying some glue. This piece might actually be ash. So I'm going to do the 4 smaller ones to give you a good visual of how it works. Really can't do a rub, so you got to put enough glue and make sure that it gushes out when you pull it together. Don't have to overdo it. It's not how much glue you put, it's how good of a coverage you get. So that's good. And this now, what I'm doing here, this is not the end of what you can do. Once you cut this round, you could actually put a laminate piece going across on this, going around here, which also looks nice. And if you want to put your ring, your star kind of centered with contrasting rim around it, that looks really good, really good. So, all this needs right now is a clamp to pull this up a little bit. And you can see I have a slight difference here. If you end up with something like this, okay, and you can see on this particular piece, all the other ones are good except for that one. And I don't know exactly what happened with that, but it's obviously too long on the center point. On a case like this, I can bring it to my disc sander and just feather off a little bit on the inside corner. too dangerous to do it on a saw. So just by taking a little bit off, and it's just one perfect fit. No more rocking. A disc sander is, if you're doing segmented turning, it's almost a must. And I hate to say things like that because I am one that always says work with what you got. And I'm still a strong believer in that. But you know, I do have a few tools, and sometimes I almost feel guilty by using them because I know not everybody has them. But you know, again, it's it was an old disc sander, and you can make one up. There's many people that have done it. I started off by making one, and then I came across this old Craftsman, the cast iron, and the 1950s model, so it was pretty good condition. Not the strongest in the motor, it's only probably got 1/3, but I increased its capacity from 12 inches to 14 inches. And you know, I use it quite a bit. But anyway, once you get all your pieces in, it's like when you did the star. Tighten it up slightly, then make sure you tap everything flat and nothing is pulling away, and then give it the final squeeze. So here it is, a star ready to be cut round and placed on the bottom of a bowl and create something like this one. Not the same size, and this of course will be trued up with, as I shape the bowl, because I generally leave mine the full thickness. I don't slice them in half and put them into a disc. I generally do something like this where it's visible from the bottom. But this setup right here, this was not ideal because my ring was incorrectly sized. So I had to surface mount. The idea is to make a mortise on the first receiving ring and make the center of your star as a tenon and insert it in, and that way the bowl hugs around the outside of your circle, and that way you don't interfere and you don't end up with a weak point on this bottom. So here it is, two finished stars for two different size bowls. A 6-inch ring or 5.5-inch ring as indicated with the pi method, and you can see that this ring, I'm close, so if I was cutting it all the way out here and exposing the whole star, it would possibly work. But my idea with these is not even to go fully segments. As much as I like segmented bowls, I know that they're time consuming, but I don't feel the same about them as I first initially did when I first started seeing this guy creating amazing works of art. I'm more partial to natural bowls, solid wood bowls, and my thought is I would like to, and I've been thinking of this all the way from the beginning, is to mix the two. So it will be to put a ring on a regular bowl, or to put a star on the base of a bowl, or something like this. So we'll see what comes up next time. Well, for today's lesson was making stars and rings to the correct size. Well, thanks for watching. We'll see you very soon again with maybe something incorporating one of these, and who knows, I like to venture out a little further with this design into maybe a bowl, but again, a lot of work and many of these to make up with the idea that I have in my mind. I don't know if I'll do it, but we will see. That's why you need to subscribe and see my upcoming videos when I post them, so you can come to them and not miss, because sometimes I do some okay stuff. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon. Take care.